Hi, and welcome back to India on 99.9 for the home of cricket audio. I'm Nikesh Ragani, host of this podcast based in the UK, commentator, broadcaster, and journalist. And Sarah Waris, my co host, journalist for Wisden over in India. Just remember, join us here on this podcast several times a week. We've got loads of other offerings as well, not just from India, but other countries. We've got commentary feeds available as well. So download the 99.94 app and join cricket's conversation. Right, Sarah, only one place to start, only one place we're going today. India versus Sri Lanka, and India's almost exit from the Asia Cup. It's not quite done mathematically yet, but we're pretty much there, aren't we? And back-to-back defeats, losing to Pakistan on Sunday, losing to Sri Lanka again. Both times we batted first. Both times we were unable to handle the pressure with the ball, particularly at the back end of the innings when defending. What went wrong? Just sum it all up generally for us.
The toss, it all went downhill just right from the toss. It's kind of becoming a habit, in pressure games when India needs to win the toss, they somehow always end up losing the toss. It happened last year against Pakistan. So I don't know, it's just becoming such a habit. They win the bilaterals and then come the multinational events. Both the men's and the women's team, they're just, you know, unable to handle the pressure. It's just,
Yeah, I
I
get
don't
that.
know.
Obviously, look, everyone likes chasing in
Yeah.
these games, particularly in those conditions. There wasn't really any due. From what we're hearing, I saw Irfan
Yeah.
Pathan and Wasim Akram on the pitch after the match had finished. Irfan was touching the grass saying that there's no due. There's absolutely nothing. So I don't think due came into it. It's probably a psychological thing about, knowing exactly what you need to do. Sometimes, it wasn't the quickest deck. It wasn't coming on as well as we'd seen in previous games, particularly the Pakistan game, the way India batted first early on during that innings. It wasn't quite coming on quite as nicely as that. So on those pitches, sometimes setting a target is more difficult than chasing, because when you're chasing, you know exactly what you need to do. You don't need to take any unnecessary risks if you're within the rate. I get all that, but you can't just blame the toss. At the end of the day, look, we've got to
Yeah.
delve deeper into it,
And
and it seems to me,
they've been playing in UAE
yeah.
forever. Like they've
Well,
been
that's it.
the IPL and yeah, so that can't really be an
Yeah,
excuse because they've been playing in UAE more than anywhere else in the world in the last 2 years. So
exactly.
um
And
yeah.
it's the same old issues at the top of the order, isn't it? KL Rahul, another failure.
Yeah.
Look, we didn't say he was back after that innings against Pakistan, but we saw glimpses of what he's capable of doing. He just doesn't deliver at this level,
Hmm.
and we're surely getting to that stage now where somebody's just got to say, "Look, it's not happening. We need to try something else at the top." He obviously failed. Kohli went for a duck, and all of a sudden you're in trouble again. And then Rohit and Surya come to the rescue. It's not ideal, first and foremost, is it? Just being in that pressure situation again and again and again.
Yeah.
Okay, it didn't happen against Pakistan. The opening stand was good, but this is back to same old India, shall we say? Same old problems at the top of the
Yeah.
order. Early wicket falls, sometimes two, and there's a rebuilding job needed straight away, and it sucks the life out of that batting, the intent that they want to have and the attacking mindset that they talk about. You can't always do that when you lose two early wickets, so they were up against it from the off, really.
Yeah, and Rohit Sharma is well aware of this. Last year, I think when he took up captaincy, he said, "I want to prepare the team for situations where the side is 10 for 3." They were 13 for 2 yesterday, but it's just becoming a trend in pressure. I don't know, in pressure situations, they're just losing those early wickets. KL Rahul, we have spoken before, not the biggest match, not the best player in crucial matches. We've seen his record averages around 30 against the higher ranked sides. a little over 50 against teams like Zimbabwe and not Zimbabwe, Namibia in T20Is, those lower ranked teams. Uh, I really don't know why it keeps happening, because you've been preparing for it all these months. Rohit Sharma said that, we have to prepare for this, be more attacking. But then suddenly it's like, where is that approach? Like, you've been preparing for it all these 8, 9, 10 months, but then suddenly it's like same old. And yeah, I don't know. It's very weird with all these selections and
We'll
yeah.
delve into the batting just a bit deeper, but I just want to make one point and put it out there, really. Are India, I mean, we talk about South Africa being chokers in ODI tournaments and white
Yeah.
ball tournaments forever, really. Are India chokers? Because look at the facts, right?
Yeah.
In ICC tournaments since 2013. So you look at, and we all right, this isn't an ICC tournament. And yes, India have won the Asia Cup the last couple of times. So I suppose in that respect, they're not chokers in this competition, over the history of the last few years at least. But,
Yeah.
let's face it, the Asia Cup this time seems a little bit, there's more hype around it than there has been in previous editions. I don't know why, but just the way it is, maybe because the World Cup's around the corner, maybe because the format means that there was a potential for India to play Pakistan 3 times and everyone was looking forward to that. That's not going to happen, even if India do somehow scrape the final as well. So that's
Yeah.
done.
My
Yeah, that's
predictions have gone
yeah.
totally gone wrong.
We'll
Yeah.
tone it down with the predictions going forward. But look, 2014
Yeah.
T20 World Cup, lost in the final. 2015 ODI World Cup, lost in the semi-final. Okay, it was to Australia, and the previous one was to Sri Lanka, and we're both playing these teams on their home. So it's different, and it's a different kind of prospect when you're facing the home side in a crunch game, and they've got the crowd on their side and all that kind of stuff. But still, you'd expect the performances to be better. Underwhelming in 2014 with the bat. In 2015, they just never got going at all in that game, at all. It was just a completely
Yeah.
one-sided affair in favour of Australia on the biggest day. And this is when India, in that ODI World Cup, was smashing everyone in the group stage, absolutely killing everyone and, winning really, really well as well. It wasn't just winning tight games and all that. They were smashing everyone up until that point. So that was hugely disappointing. 2016.
And I think before that, I think before that, the bowlers had taken all wickets, like dismissed the opposition, right up till the semi-final all the
Yeah,
time. So again, it was the batting which let India down.
absolutely. And then 2016, West Indies, that semi-final, and then they
Yeah.
go on and win the cup. That was at home. That was at home. So we talk about playing teams with home advantage. This was in India. And look, it was a great West Indies side, but again, that pressure situation. 2017, are we allowed to talk about that? Champions Trophy final. Pakistan fans, if you're listening, get your DVD out. Keep playing that back to back because you keep talking about it. So there was that again in the final. 2019 World Cup. We could go on, and it just
Yeah.
keeps happening. The last T20 World Cup against Pakistan, we just bottled it in that first game, didn't we? Completely bottled it. And then against New Zealand, just didn't show up once again. And two good sides. We're not disrespecting it, but you'd expect India, with the talent they have, to at least put on a better performance and make these games close and tight and exciting affairs and play at least exciting brand of cricket for periods of the game and look like you're in it for a certain amount of the game. But they just completely get brushed aside almost. And yesterday was another example of that. Okay, we talk about the Pakistan game, and even yesterday, it went down to, it was 19.5 overs. Did India at any stage yesterday look like they were ahead of the game, in control of the game? Not at all. Not at all. I mean, maybe there was a slight glimmer when Rohit and Surya were going, but then they kept losing the wickets at the crucial times, didn't they? And once again, with the bat, we talk about the failures at the top. Yeah, KL Rahul again, Virat Kohli. Okay, that was unfortunate. It was a rubbish shot. I don't know what he was doing, but it happens sometimes. And he's been batting well, so we can kind of give him the benefit of the doubt. But then the middle order once again from below Surya onwards. So that engine room of 5, 6, 7, fail, fail,
Hmm.
fail again, again, and it just keeps
Yeah.
happening.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was just thinking, do you think it's because of, the Indian players, they've been, skipping series, not playing together as a unit for the longest time? One player, one key player is missing for one series, and it's just been happening. So do you think when they are coming together, somehow the approach is different, because they've been doing well with the Sanju Samsons and all these other players in the B team, so to say. Uh, but then, when KL Rahul comes back, Virat Kohli comes back, these players who've done so well recently, they have to, sit out, and then it's a totally new approach. And because they've not playing or been playing together, do you think, the roles are not defined as such, or if it's defined, it's do you think that's an issue, that not playing together for,
Yeah, I mean,
I
there's
don't know. Yeah.
you could argue that, and yeah, combinations are key, and you hark back to the
Yeah.
Dhoni era, and I don't want to be one of those guys who keep saying, "Oh, we miss you, MS," and of course we miss him, but
Yeah.
look, he's gone now, and we've got to move on from that era. But just looking at the way that Indian T20 cricket and even ODI cricket was shaped during those days, you'd have your Suresh Raina, your Yuvraj Singh, and your MS Dhoni in that middle order. They would all know what their role was, more often than not to finish games, but occasionally to dig India out of holes, and they knew how to play both ways. I don't think these guys do, and I don't think it helps when
Especially,
Rohit
yeah.
Sharma is
Yeah.
picking. You assume he's the one picking the
Mm.
team. Rahul Dravid might have some input as well, but at the end of the day, the skipper, takes that final call. You're playing people in roles that they shouldn't be playing in. Hardik Pandya is not necessarily a finisher. I don't think that's his
Mm.
best role, particularly now.
Deepak Huda is not a finisher
Sorry,
at all.
Huda, yeah,
Deepak
Huda,
Huda. Deepak
exactly,
Huda is
yeah.
not the
Huda
finisher.
is a
Yeah.
top order bat. Okay, you can't fit him into that top order. Don't play him then. Play somebody else. If you're going to waste him down at number 7, and tell him to come in and try and smash 2 sixes off 2 balls at the end, that's not his game necessarily. So Hardik's not the finisher. There's no Jadeja now in the side. You've got to play DK. Forget all this left-handed nonsense. And also,
Mm.
to be honest, right, if you're not going to bowl Deepak Huda, then why the hell
Yeah.
don't you play DK in that position? I just don't understand that. Oh, we might need that
Mm.
extra option. You've got all these left-handers in the side, and then you're bringing in Ashwin ahead of Bishnoi to counteract that left-handed threat, which Bishnoi, by the way, can bowl brilliant googlies time and time again. So he's
Mm.
great against left-handers anyway, and so harsh to drop him after that Pakistan game. Not that Ashwin didn't do well, but it's just the mind
Mm.
boggles when you think about what is going through these people's minds when they're making these
Yeah.
decisions. If Huda isn't going to bowl, why aren't you playing DK? That's why you've picked him. He's an old man. There's no point in keeping him in the squad.
Mm.
He's not one for the future. None of that rubbish. The World Cup is it for him, and that'll be it. You shouldn't really look at him beyond that, because there's other options in the future going forward and in future T20 World Cups, and that's what you should be building towards. So he's been brought into the Indian setup for one specific reason, to be the finisher in the T20 World Cup. And if you're not playing him, how the hell does he get into any kind of rhythm? And like you say, in and out of the side, and players coming in, and then, not being able to settle with their teammates and define roles and all that kind of stuff. That all comes into it as well. We'll get onto the bowling in a
Also,
second, but the batting,
yeah.
just don't think the
Yeah.
combinations are right in that middle order.
Yeah. Also Rishabh Pant, like, he batted at number 6 yesterday, and we've spoken so much that, at best he's a top order player. Like, okay, he's a finisher, but he needs time to get in at least 20, 15, 20 balls. He needs time to get in. You can't expect him to be the finisher, and probably he's just there because of the left-handed thing. He didn't play the first match, so he's just there because of the left-handed quota, so to say. If you really want someone like that, then why don't you play an Akshar Patel? Akshar Patel is a much better, hitter against slow left arm spin. So if you want that Pant goes after these leg spinners, then you just have Akshar Patel in your side, who has much better figures against them. Uh, so yeah, it's more than the middle order not doing what was asked of them. Is just a combination which has gone horribly wrong. And Virat Kohli and Ravi Shastri, they got a lot of flack during their tenure for all these changes and all. I don't know. I think Dravid, not Dravid so much, but Rohit Sharma at least, he's been overhyped as the captain, that whole captaincy mess which happened in December. So I think he really needs to, yeah, the blame should be on him a little bit, because not a little bit, a lot, because it's just what is going on. And even Chehel, he's been expensive, but they've been persisting with him. I know he's the number one spinner. In the post match, he said they are senior pros, they know when to bounce back. But then is it again, they are backing these senior players just because they're getting the job because of seniority? Or why aren't they going to the Shaws and the Samsons just because they're youngsters? I don't know how this team is functioning right now. Oh, they win one game and we are like, okay, wow, the greatest side ever. But then it's just, is there a clarity? Because I don't know if there's a clarity or what is happening
There is
in
no
the side.
clarity. I mean, it's quite clear to see,
Hmm.
and we'll just get on to a couple of more points in a second. Before we do, reminder that 99.94 is more than just this podcast. It's not all moaning from me and Sarah about when India lose. It's Jared Kimber, who's got Red Inca, that focuses on deep issues and topics within the global game. There's also Double Century, a look at the history of the game. Feels like we're talking about history quite a lot at the moment, harping back to 2013 and just a little bit before that. Those glory days of India doing well in tournaments. But if you also want to listen to other countries and see what the analysis is from the West Indies, for example, there's West Indies on 99.94, the best Caribbean coverage. There's England, there's South Africa, and we've just launched, I think it was yesterday as we're recording this, so the day of the
Hmm.
match, Sri Lanka on 99.94. Great timing, guys. Well done. And you can find all of those on your podcast apps on YouTube or on the 99.94 app. I mean, what a day to launch Sri Lanka on 99.94. We
Yeah.
should have a conversation with those guys as well at some point, I'm sure, when India play Sri Lanka in one of the 136 series in the FTP that gets scheduled in. Um, so the batting, right? Look, we're just confused, aren't we, as to what they should do. This whole left-hander thing we talked about, I
Hmm.
don't see the obsession. If you're going to put in a left-hander just for the sake of having a left-hander, if he's not doing the business, then there's no point. If you're batting at number 6, there's no point because he's coming in too
Hmm.
late. I don't see the logic. Just play your best team. Play your best team. That all the time. That's what you should do. Who are the best available players? Occasionally, you might come up against an opposition where they have a certain type of bowler who's a freak, maybe a Shaheen, or maybe going back in the day, somebody like Lasith Malinga, just a freak of a bowler who you think this combination might be better suited in the middle order to facing that kind of bowler. So maybe you could allow a bit of that, or maybe they have a freak of a batter. I don't know, Rajapaksa, for example, who's basically,
Hmm.
he's a very good slogger. I really like him. I like what he did in the IPL. But he's a slogger, essentially. But he's a very good slogger. He's got a very
Yeah.
good eye, hits more often than he misses. But ultimately, he's a slogger. So is there a type of bowler that you think would best counteract him? Maybe a Ravi Bishnoi would have been a great option, I think. The way he can vary his pace, the way he can bowl across the left-hander, he can come round the wicket as well. And he bowls brilliant googlies and he's difficult to pick. So I would have thought that would have been a good matchup. But there are certain instances where you select your team based on certain matchups if there's just an absolute freak on the other side who you need to counteract. But they don't do that. They say they do that. They chop and change and we need to build towards the World Cup. We need to, see what this combination would do and this and it might pay off? We don't know, but it doesn't look like it at the moment because they've tried all these different options. None of them seem to have worked. Even the win against Pakistan in the group stage, it should have been easier than it was, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
So they've not been
Yeah.
convincing against these bigger sides, have they? Even against Hong Kong, to be honest. Okay, on paper it was convincing, but they didn't look all that convincing through the game. It shouldn't have been as close as it was, even though it was, what,
Yeah.
40 runs or whatever in the end. But it should never have been that close. India should have got more with the bat. They should have restricted Hong Kong to less when they were bowling. They've just not looked like the real deal. And going into this T20 World Cup, that's a huge concern. There's no Bumrah, of course, we know that, and that will make a difference when he comes back. But the batting just looks really, really light. We don't know about Jadeja, if he's coming back or not. And they need to make some serious decisions in the next game, you feel. And it's not ideal because you're
Yeah.
going to chop and change again. And Afghanistan are no mugs as well. We've seen what they can do in this Asia Cup so far. So, I mean, do you think they will? Do you think they're going to drop KL Rahul? Is it too late for
I
this?
don't think so. I don't think so. I don't think so. Somehow, following Indian cricket over the years, you sense you sense their stubbornness in the side to make these changes. Backing the senior players. Yeah, it's good to back the senior players, but then if something is not working, if there are other options, not immediately in the squad, but there are other options like in the IPL, IPL has thrown up some very talented players, but then what's the use of that talent? What's the use of the IPL if you're not, going to uh, pick the right players for the right formats? Like you pick Gaikwad to play T20Is. We know he's not the best. He's a KL Rahul type of a player, if you know what I mean. He's not the Shaw, he's not the Samson. So you pick the players based on what format suits them best. And also you were talking about the middle order. Over the years, so many years, the IPL has not really thrown up a finisher. There's Hardik Pandya, okay, but other than Hardik Pandya, there's not really been a finisher. So again, like, where is the finisher? Who is your finisher, like, going forward? There's Dinesh Karthik. The fact that you had to go back to a 37-year-old, great for him, but that again shows that there's no finisher in the side. And uh overall in the Indian circuit, there's Shah Rukh Khan, but then not consistent enough. He needs a little more game time. Punjab have not really backed him also. And plus the T20I team, Indian T20I team, despite the IPL, is not doing well. So
Hasn't. I mean,
it's
since
like,
the IPL
yeah,
has been in existence, they've not
they've
won a
not won.
T20 World
Yeah,
Cup. So
yeah.
it's weird. I mean, it's not like
It's
they've
like,
not played
yeah.
any good T20 cricket in that time, but considering
Mm,
how big the IPL is, how much investment goes into it,
mm,
how many, how much they pay the players, how much they pay the overseas players to come in and help the Indian youngsters almost, really, because it's all part of that as well. It's development, isn't it? At the end of the day, as well as an entertainment product in its own right. It just hasn't worked in terms of the national team. It's
mm.
a great product on its own, and we see some fantastic cricket. We see some great young players coming through. But when it comes to that national side, we don't see as many of those youngsters as we'd like to see making it into the India side, because it's your Rohits, it's your KLs, it's your Kohlis at the top of the order, it's your
Yeah.
standard practice. It's
And even
it's a
if,
closed
yeah,
shop.
sorry, even if they are picked, it's just, based on one season, like Rahul Cheher or even Varun Chakrabarti, Venkatesh Iyer. Um, so again, it's not only the immediate management who is, to be looked at and question, like, what are they doing, but even the selectors, like, it's okay, yeah, you are picking Rahul Chair, but if you are picking him, you back him for a little longer time. Varun Chakrabarti, he made his debut directly in the T20 World Cup last year, if I'm not wrong. Uh, he didn't do that well, but he didn't do the worst also. He just played 3 or 4 games and then he's never been in the side again. So if you are picking someone based on the IPL, then, I think you should back them a little more and not just, be like, okay, you're not good enough after just 2 or 3 games. So it's, I think, an overall mixture of picking too soon and not backing
Yeah.
them as well.
Right, we'll move on to bowlers in just a second. But before we do, if you love cricket and you want to hear more, head over to the 99.94 app and you can hear all our podcasts and also our commentary. With a home of audio cricket online, we're adding new shows and covering series as well. Lots more to come in the coming weeks and months. And the best way to follow us is via the app 99.94 or also via your usual podcast provider and on YouTube. Right then, the bowling, that is as big a concern as the middle order and the top order indeed. With the bat, it's just without Bumrah, they look completely toothless. They obviously haven't got Shami, who's not the best T20 bowler, particularly once the ball is not new anymore. He's a good new ball bowler, but apart from that, he's not the best T20 bowler that India have got anyway. So people saying, "Oh, I miss Mohammad Shami." Mohammad Shami comes back and then gets smashed in his second and third spells, then you're not missing him anymore. So it's one of those things where, yeah, grass always looks greener on the other side. Bhuvi, let's talk about Bhuvi. Has Bhuvi, in the last 5, 6, even 7 years, has he ever been as good as he previously was? I mean, he swings the new ball, yeah. He can create chances with the new ball. Apart from that, is he of any use to this side?
I think the other option is Deepak Chahar. Like, I'm just looking forward for the T20 World Cup. The other option is Deepak Chahar. Deepak Chahar, it's he can't bowl in the death at all. So I think probably the Indian
Can
team
Bhuvi?
wants an added
Can Bhuvi bowl
option.
in the death?
Yeah, good point. But yeah, I think the Indian team have made that decision of going ahead with Bhuvi. He can still bowl in the death. We
Well, he can. I mean,
have
I
seen
can bowl
instances
in the
he
death.
can.
I can
Yeah,
bowl in the death as well. It doesn't mean I'll be
yeah,
successful. And look, I'm not sort of
yeah,
belittling his talent or anything. And yeah, we've seen it previously, but how long ago was that?
yeah.
I mean, the last few years he spends, and it's not his fault, but he spends 10 months either injured or getting fit, and then they bring him in, and then he gets injured again. Then he spends another X amount of months getting fit. Is it time to say, look, enough's enough? We either need, because playing consistently is another thing as well. Okay, he might have the talent to bowl at the death, but if you're not doing it regularly, if you're not fit enough to do it regularly in the Indian side, how are they going to know how good you are, and how are you going to know what works best against international opposition and all these types of things as well? It's just, it seems to me like it's that seniority thing again.
Yeah.
And yeah, Deepak Chahar is not
Yeah.
a death bowler, but looking forward, particularly, you've got Arshdeep, you've got Jasprit Bumrah. They're your death bowlers. Arshdeep's not particularly effective with the new ball, as we've seen. Gets hammered around and, he can occasionally swing it, but just that's not his game. His game is probably bowling 3 towards the back end of the innings, maybe 1 early on or in the middle somewhere. And that's what you should look at. And perhaps you bring in somebody like a Deepak Chahar who could almost bowl 4 on the trot. This is what he's done for Chennai Super Kings so often. Certainly 3 on the trot is what Dhoni used to do all the time with him. At least 3. And if he's bowling well, just do all 4 early on. If people aren't scoring off him and is creating opportunities, then that could be another option, because we don't have anybody who does that either, because you've got all these opening bowlers who then you need to use at the death. So you're only using 1 or 2 overs early on, and you're chopping and changing quite a lot in that power play. You've got somebody who's on the opposition and not allowing them to score. Just keep them going, and then if it's not working, you can change it up. But they haven't got that option now, because even if Bhuvi's bowling really well with the new ball, they feel like they have to save him to the death. So he can't bowl as much as we would all like to see with that new ball, and that's his strength, because they want to bowl him at the death. So either Bhuvi comes in and just bowls at the front end, or you bring in somebody like a Deepak Chahar, but they've got to be a new ball specialist. And then when Bumrah does come back, is Bumrah, Arshdeep Singh maybe at the death, and then the spinners through the middle. So I just don't get
Also
it. I just don't
yesterday,
get it.
yeah. Also, you spoke of the seniority factor. Probably the 19th over is usually bowled by your best
Yep,
bowler. Yeah. So should India have gone with Arshdeep in both yesterday's match and against
of course.
Pakistan? Arshdeep was expensive yesterday in the first part, but then he came back so brilliant. As you said, probably not the best bowler with the new ball, but then he came back brilliantly in the depth, and again could have won India that match with just 7 or 8 to defend in the last over. If not for that run out again, Miss Dhoni, uh, not run out, that overthrows. So yeah, is it?
He should have 100% done
I
that in both of the games, in
Yeah,
against Pakistan
yeah.
and against Sri Lanka, because he's your best death
Hmm.
bowler. And that's what you do. Your
Yeah.
best death bowler bowls the penultimate over so that you're putting extra pressure on the chasing side
Hmm.
to have to chase even more in the final over. And then, even if your not so good death bowler comes in and there's 15 or something like that on the board to chase down, immediately that puts an extra level of pressure on the chasing side where they're thinking this looks a bit dodgy now. If it's under 10, as you know, Ravi Shastri said that on commentary as well. I
Hmm.
thought even 10 would have been quite difficult to defend in
Hmm.
the final over. Just the way Sri Lanka looked and the way they were going about things, they had a set pair at the crease. Even 10 would have been difficult, but you're looking at 12 plus really to be able to put more pressure on them in that
Yeah.
final over. And Arshdeep would have probably been the man to do that. We saw how he bowled in that final over, but they're just not giving him enough
Hmm.
runs to play with in that final over. So what's the point in having such a fantastic death bowler who can bowl Yorkers almost at will, so difficult to score off at that time of the innings, when you've only got 7 to defend and they can just dig the
Yeah.
Yorkers out and get the singles and they might get the odd 2 and that's it. Game done without taking any risks, not hitting any boundaries. So, of course, he should have bowled the 19th over. But again, seniority. Oh, he's our most senior bowler. Well, your most
Yeah.
senior bowlers conceded 19 against Pakistan in the penultimate over and 14 against Sri Lanka. And
Hmm.
10 times out of 10, you're going to
It's just
lose
the
games if you do
stubbornness,
that.
I think. Yeah. Not only with the batting, I think even in this, it's just that sense of stubbornness, that probably not being flexible enough to, okay, Arshdeep is better. I don't know, like Rohit Sharma, he's the best captain, 5 IPL wins, IPL toughest tournament in the world. But then, yeah, it's just lack of, I don't know what it is it,
But we're not knocking him
I
as a
really don't know
captain
what it
like
is. Yeah.
over his time since he's been doing it.
Yeah.
But just of late, he's been getting a lot of things wrong. And I don't
Of
know if
late, yeah.
that's outside noise putting pressure on
Spe-
him as well. And
Especially his body language also, like somehow, I don't know, like he shouted, he's had a word with Bhuvi, he's being frustrated with him in one match when he dropped a catch last over. Arshdeep, the other game, he, that frustration when Arshdeep was to bowl the last over. So Mohammad Hafiz recently got a lot of flack for saying Rohit Sharma doesn't have the right body language to be the captain. Um, it just somehow feels that he gets very frustrated when there's pressure on him. All happy, and we spoke about how he's expressive. He's a very chill player to be around, but somehow it just feels like in pressure situations it does get to him and he's unable to just manage those emotions, takes it out on the youngsters. So yeah.
yeah, and also just in terms of how he goes into these games and stuff. Okay, there's no Avesh Khan, which might be a blessing in
Hmm.
disguise, really. I don't want to be too harsh on him, but again, he wouldn't be your first choice in a T20 11 for India if everyone else was fit and firing. Concedes a lot of runs, just looks very
Hmm.
hittable, to be honest. Just bowls that hard length, which is quite easy to smash around at times. Can pick up wickets, but is very expensive. So that's not such a bad thing. But how can you go into a tournament, any
Yeah.
tournament, with just 3 frontline fast bowlers? one of them could get injured like they have, and then you've only got two frontline, and we're not counting Hardik as a
Yeah.
frontline fast bowler. He isn't. He shouldn't be considered as one. He is being considered as one at the moment. That's a massive problem. Hardik should be your impact bowler who bowls 2 overs, 3 overs. If it's going really well, bowl 4 overs, but that's not going to be every match. They're needing him to bowl 4 overs every match. He's expensive when he does that. If he's not in the rhythm, if it's not his day, again, he can be very expensive. Bowls with good pace, as we saw yesterday, good pace can fly to the boundary. So how can you go into a tournament with so little in your fast bowling armory? And yeah, Deepak Jaya's come in as a replacement late on, and he's with the squad, but they're not playing him, so they obviously don't rate him or whatever it is. It's just, it baffles me. It absolutely baffles me. And then you look at the UAE, okay, all right, slow pitches, it's going to spin, it's the usual stereotypes come into it. But you need those options at least. I just honestly, it baffles me, completely baffles me. And all right, you got Harsha Patel and Jasprit Bumrah injured. They'd probably be shoo-ins for this squad and probably the side, the 11 as well, if they were fit. But if they're not fit, look at somebody like, don't look at your medium pacers and all this rubbish. Look at somebody who can offer you something different on these slow wickets and take the conditions out of the equation. Okay, he might be expensive at times as well, but somebody like an Umran Malik as your X factor, they've got nothing different in this lineup. Arshdeep's got no pace. Bhuvi's got no pace. Hardik has got pace, but shouldn't really be a frontline bowler. So we're not really counting him on that. And then Avesh, steams in like he's got pace. He's got a bit more than the other two, but again, he's not express. What have you got that's different? You've got medium fast bowlers who, a couple of them can swing it early on, and one of them's really good in the death in Arshdeep, but the other two not really. What bases are you covering with this selection? At least if you've got somebody like an Umran Malik, you can scare the shit out of people, right? That's that.
This is a point like I have brought up in the one of the previews for the Asia Cup also, saying that the T20 World Cup, they just went in with 3 frontline quicks: Bumrah, Bhuvi, and Mohammad Shami. Shardul Thakur was there, but yeah, he's more of a fill-in sort of. Hardik Pandya wasn't bowling consistently back then, so it came to bite them then also, and I wondered if it could be an issue even in the Asia Cup. And the thing is, as I said earlier, they've been playing in UAE for the longest time, 2.5 years, and they should know, okay, these stereotypes that the pitches is slow and all, but they should know by now that at least you should have that extra pace, as you said. And with Umran Malik, it's even more surprising. He's just played 3 T20Is. Again, like, if you pick him, you back him for a little longer. He won that match. He was expensive, not lying. He had an economy of 12. But then it was just his first series. You play him a little more. He won that match. One match. He defended some 10-15 runs and won India that match.
Ireland, right?
So, just give him that. Yeah, I think, yeah. So you just give him that extended rope. You've played Avish Khan for 10-15 matches. So why not an Umran Malik who has troubled batsmen in the IPL? Yeah, he is expensive, but then
he's not always expensive,
when he
but
is on fire,
it's just that pace,
when he's
right?
on fire, he is.
You can sometimes fly off the edge and all sorts of things like that, and
plus in Australia he would have been so handy.
Yeah, he just needs to bowl a good length in Australia, and it's going to, the bounce and the carry is going to be there for him. He doesn't need to even bend his back and dig it in short, and you don't need all that there. You can just bowl just back of a length, and it's awkward for the batters on those pacey pitches out there. So he would have been useful, but again, it's too late now, isn't it? If you've not used him here, are you going to risk him for the World Cup? You're right, they should have given him a run, and I don't know why they don't. And you got to hark back to previous eras, unfortunately. Look, we're not going down the Jared Kimber historical look back at cricket, but Ganguly, Dhoni, these kind of captains used to like backing the youngsters, backing the raw talent that comes in to the setup and just giving them a good run. The Yuvrajs, the Kaifs. Kaif didn't really kick on for ages, did he? But he was a brilliant fielder.
Yeah.
He tried his best with it. It was just the attitude was great, and Dada loved that, and that's why he was a shoe-in.
But I think, yeah. But I also think there's, a very thin line between backing a player who could become great in the future and, backing, no disrespect to him, someone like an Avesh
Yeah,
Khan who,
yeah.
has been expensive. Yeah. So I think there's a very thin line, and I don't know why the management is taking some decisions which make just no
Yeah,
sense.
look, Ganguly and Dhoni weren't perfect as captains,
Yeah.
and don't at me for saying that, but it's true. Everyone makes their mistakes, but more often than not, they would back the right youngsters who they just see that spark
Yeah.
in. What spark do you see in Avesh Khan? I mean, he had one good IPL season. He's an okay,
Yeah.
solid cricketer. He can do a job, even filling in at national level if needed to, but he's not going to be one of your frontline guys going forward, is he?
Hmm.
Realistically, when everyone's fit, he's not going to be in the
Hmm.
reckoning. So, is there any point in backing him this
Or
much?
even someone like Rishabh. Yeah, even someone like Rishabh Pant played more than 50 T20Is. Yeah, he's been brilliant in ODIs, test matches. Obviously, we know what he can do. But right now, we know there are so many others. We've spoken about Sanju Samson, Prithvi Shaw. There's even a Rahul Tripathi. I would love for him to have a go in this Indian team, because I know, like, obviously, we all know what he can do, and being a KKR fan, I know, like, he's just been brilliant in all situations. So, again, is it backing the right players also that needs answering and questioning?
Yep. Look, I mean, we've covered the batting. We've covered
Yeah.
most of the bowling. We could probably be here all day talking about various
Yeah.
combinations and who should be in, who should be out. We've talked about Rohit's captaincy. I mean, just a quick question. I know you kind of touched on it earlier. Is he overrated as a captain?
Uh, Too quick to judge, probably, I'd say. Just, but from what I've seen, just those pressure games, pressure moments, sort of loses his cool, takes it out on the players. Uh, Kohli got. I don't think Kohli would do that. Like, okay, he would, but not to this extent where Arshdeep is bowling the next over and he's just shouting at Arshdeep for dropping a catch. And I would like to give him a longer rope before passing judgments. Again, no predictions, no judgments on my side. It's gone horribly wrong. But yeah, let's. He's done it in the IPL. Let's hope that it comes off. So yeah.
Yeah, we all hope it. Yeah,
What
we
do
all
you
hope it
feel?
comes off. I
What do
mean,
you
look, one
feel?
thing I didn't like. I think he's a good captain, and he'll get better.
Mm,
It's different in the IPL because he's part of a franchise. He's been
mm,
in that franchise for so long. He's settled. He's part of the family. They spend so much time together, like 2 months every year they spend together, and maybe a little bit longer as well in terms of the interactions that he has with the Ambani family. And it's all one big family, really. And India, yeah, they do spend a lot of time together, but there's different players coming in and out all the time. There's all the politics of the
mm.
BCCI. It's a slightly different atmosphere. So, time will tell, but I think he will go on and be successful. He has been, look, whenever he's captained India, he's got a great captaincy record. We can't shy away from that. So you can only go
Yeah.
by the stats. But yeah, in the pressure games, it hasn't quite come off recently in these last two games. We'll wait and see. Look, India are not out of the Asia Cup mathematically. Basically, India need Pakistan to
Yeah.
lose both of their remaining games, which, India will have no problem cheering Pakistan's opponents. I'm sure Afghanistan, which
Yeah.
is later on today as we're recording this podcast, and then Sri Lanka. So basically, they need Sri Lanka to finish top of the group with 6 points out of six.
And they need to win their
And they
last
need to,
game.
well, crucially, yeah, they need to win
Yeah.
against
Yeah.
Afghanistan, which is not going to be a walk in the park. Afghanistan
Hmm.
are a very good side now. They're there at the expense of Bangladesh. They beat Sri Lanka and Bangladesh in the initial group stage and qualified top of their group. Um, and they can cause problems. It was a tight game against Sri Lanka as well in the Super
Yeah.
Fours. So they're not going to be any mugs. India would have seen a lot of their players over the course of the IPL or their star players, but then in turn, those star players will have seen what the Indians can do, and the Indians going into it off the back of 2 defeats might be there for the taking. So that's not going to be straightforward, but
Mm.
it could happen. It could happen. It's basically a lot rides on today, and by the time you're
Mm.
listening to this podcast, you might already know the outcome of Pakistan Afghanistan, and it's basically that match. You can see Sri Lanka maybe beating Pakistan if they play like that. And if, Sri Lanka are sort of just finding
Mm.
momentum at the right time as well, and on their day are capable of beating anyone in the world if they play like they have been doing in the last couple of games. So that one, not so much, but Afghanistan beating Pakistan is a little bit more far-fetched in terms of the history and everything, but who knows? It could happen.
Yeah.
It's not ideal. India wouldn't want to qualify for a final
Mm.
having to rely on other results, but
Yeah.
it is what it is. It's probably not going to happen. I put out a tweet yesterday saying these are the permutations. Most people were laughing at me. My colleague Prakash Wakankar, who's a well-known commentator for All India Radio and TMS here in the UK, said he's got more chance of being knighted by the Queen than that of happening. So let's see what happens, and
Yeah.
maybe if
Also,
yeah.
one small thing I had after this Asia Cup, India have 60-20 against South Africa and Australia. Uh, Probably, I just hope that, if they win that, it's not like, everything is okay and or whatever. So, probably this Asia Cup setback, not the worst thing to happen, because they win all these bilaterals and it's like the greatest team. Hardik Pandya says that, to. India can field two teams and be the best, defeat the best. But then,
Well, they
you
lost
need
that
these
series, didn't
setbacks
they? They
because,
actually lost that series
yeah,
after he said that. They won that game.
yeah,
I think they were
yeah,
1-0 up, and
yeah,
then they got all the injuries and everything, and
yeah,
COVID and whatever. So
yeah,
yeah, they
mm,
can't field even 2 teams and win any
yeah,
tour. They can't even win tournament with 1 team. Do
yeah,
you know what I mean? So
yeah.
comments like that don't help, I don't think.
Hmm,
So just keep your mouth shut, get on with it.
yeah. Applies to me also. Yeah.
But just on a final note, Rohit Sharma after the game yesterday said all the boys are chilled and relaxed in the dressing room, and
Yeah.
that's not changed, and we're okay. You shouldn't be okay. I mean, I want to use some language
Hmm.
which I can't really use here, but I don't like that.
Yeah.
Defeat
Yeah.
should hurt.
Okay.
You shouldn't be all
Yeah.
right. You shouldn't be depressed
Uh,
about it,
hmm.
but it should hurt you. It should stoke a fire inside of you, a Virat
Yeah.
Kohli style of fire. That
Is this
yeah,
complacency? I don't know. Like, yeah, we are the best. We won these bilaterals against Ireland and West Indies and Sri Lanka. We can do it at the world
England as well.
stage. But yeah,
That's not a bad
England.
one.
But it's
But
different.
it's different, yeah.
Yeah.
On the world
But they are
stage, when you're
different.
playing
Yeah.
against different teams on
Yeah.
different days, and you've not got that consistent opponent, it's a different ball game altogether.
With more
Yeah,
pressure. It's just more
a lot more
pressure. Yeah.
pressure, especially in
Hmm.
knockout stages and things like that. So I don't like that. I hope somebody kicks their ass and gets them
Hmm.
into gear. And look, I'm sure it does hurt them a little bit, but just comments like that, again, not helpful. That's not what fans want
Hmm.
to hear. And it's for the fans. You're playing for the fans. You're playing for the country. You need to sometimes say the right things as well. That look, this hurts,
Hmm.
but we're determined to come back from
Yeah.
this. Something along those lines.
Hmm.
And we'll give our all for the fans that have turned out here in great numbers and are watching around the world. Easy, I've done it. I should maybe be their PR man, just just to give them some tips, because
Yeah.
being chilled and relaxed after back-to-back defeats in the dressing room and acting like koi baat nahi, it's no, we don't want that.
Hmm.
We want you to be upset. We want you to be hurt. We want you to be angry. We want you to come out hard for the next game. And that's what they need to do.
We love it when
And
Rohit
we'll be
is
back.
chill. Yeah, we love it when Rohit is chill. Yeah, sorry. I'm saying we love it when Rohit is chill, but not always.
Yeah, not always. Not always. Well, on that note, anyway, we might be back to discuss Asia Cup. We might not be. If Afghanistan don't beat Pakistan, then it's done. And good luck to whoever contests the final, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, and may the best team win and whatever. I don't sound bitter at all, do I? But anyway, hopefully we are back discussing Asia Cup. We'll also be back in a couple of days' time to look ahead to the England women versus India women series, which kicks off on Saturday, the 10th of September. That should be a nice, interesting series. It's getting pretty cold here now, Sarah. Not cold, but it's not summer. We're into the autumn. It's been raining this week. It's not, as warm as it has been. It's going to be difficult conditions to play cricket in. Hopefully the weather stays good for the matches. It's not the ideal time to be playing in England, but it is what it is, and it should be a good series, and we'll be back to discuss that one as well. But that's all we've got time for here on this episode of India on 99.94. Thanks for listening, and keep the faith. Don't be too disappointed. See you next time.